Hi guys, Intermezzo here. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Although in the interest of full disclosure I have to say that this is Monday, but Monday's a brew day, so I figured I'd start the video today. This is my very first Homebrew Wednesday video, and I understand the tradition is to have a homebrew. So I've got a doppelbock that I brewed with a friend, partial mash kit. So we're going to pour that and get started. I've already had a couple of these. These are nice, very easy drinking beer, and since it's really in the afternoon, that's kind of desirable right now. I just want to introduce myself, spend a couple minutes talking about my favorite topic, which is me. I got into homebrewing about 25 years ago. I did quite a bit of extract kits and then got into all grain back then. Did that pretty actively for about 5 years. And then I took a job where I had to travel a lot, traveled all over the world, and that put food on the table. Brewing didn't, so brewing took a back seat, and I actually got away from it for a while until about a year ago when I retired. Moved from Rhode Island back to Ohio. I'm in Ohio now, you can see the snow behind me. And started to take up brewing again now that I've got plenty of free time on my hands and not traveling as much. So that's a little bit about me, where I'm coming from. The brew today is actually a Northern Brewer kit, something I brewed before, which is John Parker's 11s. Made a couple of modifications. I thought when I did it straight out of the box, for my taste, the mouthfeel was a little bit thin and it was a little bit light. So I added a little bit more base malt, 1 pound more of the Maris Otter, and added a little Simpson's Golden Oats to help the mouthfeel and head retention. So that's what we got going on here today. Right now I'm kind of in the middle of the garage. I don't really have a dedicated space for brewing. So I do most of the brewing in the kitchen, and I just come out here in the garage to do the boil. But that's about to change. I'm making some modifications here in the garage where I'll be able to have a brewery set up, and also I've got a smoker for barbecue that I'll be able to use in here as well when the weather's kind of crappy outside, like it's been for the last 8 or 9 months, it seems like. So anyway, I finally decided to stop lurking. I've been watching a lot of your videos for at least a year, well over a year, and decided, okay, the hockey players challenge to have a stout in the snow. I figured, okay, that would be easy enough. And then I wanted to get a little bit more of the brew day film today, but again, just getting back into brewing and just getting into making videos, I didn't want to screw either one of them up too bad. You remember I'm the guy that forgot to pour all of the Star San out of a keg before he racked the beer into it, and well, there went a batch a couple weeks ago. Now I wanted to did want to give a couple of shout outs to a couple of folks. The wind has picked up a little bit. I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of folks, specifically Imeladius and Terpsichorean Kid, aka Joe. When I first started watching videos on YouTube, I ran into these two guys. Not only did I get a real good refresher on the basics of brewing, which I really needed after being away for a long time, but I also learned from them how much they obviously enjoyed brewing, and really it reminded me how much I missed not brewing. I missed brewing, so I really wanted to give a shout out to those guys. Also, I've been watching a lot of videos. I thought hard about doing the SJ Pour Challenge in 2013, but that was right in the middle of my move from the East Coast back here, so that really wasn't practical, but I do want to participate this year. Also, I get a charge out of watching some of the videos. Brewmaster Ben, if I were in the kitchen where I was doing the brewing a little while ago, I don't have a mop handy. I don't tend to spill liquids. I have the vacuum cleaner handy because I tend to get grain all over the place. And ordinarily the dog will come in and hoover that up, but the dog is away at daycare today because I didn't want her underfoot while I was trying to do a video and brew, so I had to vacuum it up myself. But yeah, he's got his mop, I've got my vacuum cleaner, and just, a guy like that has obviously got a great sense of humor, because he can so easily edit some of that out, and I appreciate the fact that he leaves that stuff in. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that I'm working on a space here in the garage that I can dedicate to brewing. I have some equipment set up, and also to use a smoker that I've got to make some barbecue. This is the first phase of it. I got a very inexpensive exhaust hood on eBay. I figured out where I wanted to put it, which is on the wall where it's easy for me to get an electrical line into the house. It's near the door, so I can pop in and out as I'm working on whether it's barbecue or brewing. And I need to project tomorrow or the next day probably will be ductwork, so I can get the fumes or steam out of here. And then I also have a nice stainless steel table coming that I'll use over here, and underneath that I'll have probably a chugger pump, so that I can move stuff around better than I have been now, which is basically me carrying things. And you know, being an older guy, I really don't want to be doing that all the time. So that'll about do it for me. Hopefully you've all been able to stay awake, all I think 3 or 4 of my subscribers. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. Okay guys, I just wanted to show the kitchen, and there's the mash tun, and there's the vacuum cleaner. So Ben has got his mop and I've got my vacuum. Okay, here's the results of today's labor. On the right is the beer kit, the John Palmer's 11s with a couple of minor modifications. And on the left is a batch of hard cider, just 2.5 gallons of cheap apple juice and a pound of brown sugar and yeast. What had happened is when I ordered the beer kit from Northern Brewer, the yeast came partially frozen. And my local homebrew shop doesn't carry the Y yeast that I needed, so I took a drive down and got another pack of yeast. I smacked them both yesterday, and turns out they were both good. So I took the yeast that was partially frozen and used it to make a batch of cider. And this is Bailey the Wonder Dog, home from daycare and wondering why the house smells like grain. Doesn't she? Huh? Alright, there you go. Cheers, guys.